Hi, this is the Vibrant Entrepreneur Podcast, and I'm your host, Christy Oshita. So that was cool, $1,000 a month. But what happened is the property manager wasn't keeping on top of the tenants, or they missed a payment. And it really matters how the property manager goes after the tenant and communicates with them to get them on some type of payment plan, because depending on the type of property you have, and I think I was probably B minus, that's what they call it. A is all the professionals that work at Facebook or something, and then B is professionals. I'm not sure, but they'll generally pay, but sometimes they run into problems. But generally middle class type of properties. And C properties are going to be oh, these are not so great properties. I'd be a little nervous to walk around the street around there. So that's the type of. So I think I was, at the time, the neighborhood was probably a B minus. So it was up and coming, maybe C plus. It isn't terrible. But at that point, those types of tenants, you really. Hi, Vibrant Entrepreneurs. Today I'm going to talk about real estate with you a little bit more in the Airbnb area. So I've owned a few properties for a while in Pittsburgh, and there was one property that was a problem child in that it was a weird property. So it was a college housing, meaning that generally I'd rent it out to college students. It was also a very large house, so it worked well that way. But I come to realize as a landlord, I didn't really like renting to college students, and not just because they honestly didn't take care of the property well, and maybe the property wasn't in great shape in the first place, but it was definitely very hard to communicate with them about responsibility. But also the whole school year cycle was very difficult, because if I had a 5-bedroom or 6-bedroom house, which is what it was, and I needed to get a group of people who wanted to rent out the house at that time, starting September 1st, or I think starting September 1st, or the school year usually finished around May. And if you waited a month to start doing the renovations, and another month, next thing you know, you're totally off the college schedule, and you probably won't get it rented out to anybody, because it's so big that the quantity of groups you can rent it to who have 5 or 6 number of people in their group is very small. So I found it really stressful, and actually once I got it rented out, once I got it fixed up after I first bought it, and it was a good deal, I got it at a good price, but the repairs were so much that it got finished. It was exciting. I started thinking I'm going to rent it out per room. This was around, I think, September. And I'm thinking, okay, great, I'm going to rent it out per room. But the problem is we totally missed the college market. And then it hit winter. And that was terrible. And then no one wanted to rent. And the house was so big. So I remember getting a $450 gas bill. And this is Pittsburgh, so it makes sense now, and this is a 3-level house. But I was just like, oh my God, this thing is eating me alive. And so we finally, I think, lowered the rent, and because I think it listed it for $3,000. Oh my God, what was I thinking? But we finally listed it for $2,000 or $1,995, and we got a group for May 1st, I think is May 1st, and it was a bunch of undergrad college guys. So, unfortunately, that was a number of things that wasn't so great, because, when I went to go by to check it out, there was basically beer bottles everywhere. It was just really terrible. And so that was, I think I had 3 groups of college guys living there, but no one really took care of the property. And I know the property wasn't in great shape, but still, it was just really stressful to deal with. So basically, when I knew I needed to do a renovation after 3 years of that, I thought, well, I'm renovating it. What what if I turned it into an Airbnb, and there's 6 bedrooms I could rent out each bedroom, even if I rented it for $40. It's so cheap. There's a hospital, there's a university, and there's another university, there's the PPG arena. Like, oh my god, it would be booked all the time, and it'd be such a cost effective price, and I'd make so much money because 40 times 6, $240 a night would be amazing, right? So that was the plan, and we renovated it, and I needed to get a property manager. I messaged some guys on Airbnb, so not Craigslist, Airbnb, who already had their own properties. I said, would you be interested in managing mine? And one guy said, yeah, sure. And it was ironic because it was the one person I told my assistant to not message, because his picture was like really like weird. He looked like he was like this stoner or something. But he turned out a really cool guy. So I said, oh, so he was cool. So I was like, all right, let's do this. So I'm like renovating it. It's ended up taking me like 2.5 months of my life. And I say my life because like I would catch this overnight bus there from New York City, mega bus, get there early in the morning in Pittsburgh at 6:30 a.m. and just like sprint and trying to get all of this stuff done. And at the time I thought, oh, save money by buying things from Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace, and then Salvation Army, and it's just brilliant. But the whole traveling there, because I didn't have a car, and transporting stuff, I remember catching this Uber with like, thinking, man, this Uber driver is going to be so pissed, because I had like a lamp, and I had like 2 bags with my Fresh Direct bags I brought from New York City with like stuff and lamps and trinkets and vases and pillows, and not really like an organized way of storing stuff because I didn't have boxes, I didn't think it through, and be like, hi, I'm such a nice person. Please don't be mad that I have 3 bags of stuff oddly shaped that I must get into your car. So it turned out that wasn't a really time efficient way. I mean, it's kind of cost efficient, but I don't think, when I did my second Airbnb, I definitely was like Amazon everything. So anyhow, it came out beautiful. I was so proud of it, but it took 2.5 months of my life. I mean, it was a full-time job. I would just travel there, be there for a while, and I remember just always thinking, oh, this is my last trip. This is my last trip. I'm going to get everything done. How hard can it be? A couple of beds, a couple of sheets, a couple of this, a TV. But next thing you know, you start seeing different ways that the property needs to be livable. So it's not just about the bed, but like I started to realize, wow, like it needs extension cords because people want to plug in their phone, or this door doesn't close well, or user experience became important, not just filling it with some beds and everything, and I got a little too artsy. It's just my biggest fallacy is just that, like, is that the right word? My biggest vice is trying to go for all the bells and whistles, and it holds me back from delivering the core product, which I'll get into in another podcast. So it was really stressful. It was a lot of work. I finished it like right through Christmas. Right through Christmas. I like literally took photos. It was, I think, the 2 days before Christmas, or the day before New Year's, and I like sent them to my property manager. We posted it, and like literally next day we had someone in that house. And I was like, oh, we're gonna rent it per room, but in the meantime, we'll just put it as a whole house. Turned out that was what people wanted. People were really into this whole house thing because there's not a lot of big houses. But we had to charge more, and so that was a learning experience, because I really had my mind set on that the product that people wanted was a cheap room. But what the product that ended up being even better for my business was a large house. So that was a learning lesson. Another learning lesson is, I ended up hiring a bunch of people, again, through Craigslist, and like most of them turned out if they were supervised. But, the next time around, I'll go into that when I did a second property in Pittsburgh as an Airbnb. Not all of it turned out. Let's just say I lost a couple of ACs, lost the dehumidifier and lost the TV to somebody I didn't know. So it's tricky, like, because I would go to, I mean, because I was doing Airbnbs in a place I didn't live, and so when I'd have to go there, and I didn't know that many people, and to get help so that I didn't have to, like, be there for 3 weeks in a row, was really, really hard. I just needed some help because of my timeline, and that was, I mean, that was tricky, and that's kind of something that led me to think about a new business that I wanted to work on. So maybe it's a blessing, but the point is that there's different constraints when you do an Airbnb, and especially if you end up doing it in a place you don't live, and that it takes a lot more time to set up an Airbnb, because it's not just the beds, but it's the user experience, where all those little things, like, I really think we need to put the TV here, and then all of a sudden you have to drill into brick. That's really hard, and then you start seeing, like, repairs that you need to do, and it really becomes very expensive. So I think that was tough, and the fact that I actually didn't know the data. I mean, I guess I kind of got lucky that I sensed that the central location would make it work, but if you're thinking about doing an Airbnb in a place that it's not super, 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 I'm saying that with a lot of emphasis, super centrally located, where people really need to get to, and you're thinking about going all in, I would really reconsider. It has, like, vacation places and people that visit a lot, and event areas, conventions, that could definitely work. But I don't know. I mean, if you can get decent rent, and you prefer not to give yourself a part-time job, which Airbnb will become a part-time job, I don't know if I would do it without having more data. I was just going to say that, without having more data. So that's my experience with my first Airbnb property, and maybe in another podcast I'll share my experience with my other one, which is crazy stories. But I really look forward to speaking to you again, and I'd really love to hear your experience with your Airbnb properties and your real estate properties, and if you found that it's really giving you the return that you're looking for. Do you have any secrets on how to make it truly passive while keeping the returns high, and so that the costs don't become, outrageous, because, like, let's say you have to pay a premium for a really good property manager? What are your secrets investing in real estate, or maybe you do stocks, that helped you get invest without it becoming a huge stress in your life? Love to hear your thoughts, and thanks for listening to today's podcast.